Hello and welcome back to MindSpanse. I'm Craig. Thank you for taking some time with me today. We are continuing our discussion about public speaking. And today we're going to tackle preparation. If you remember from the intro video, I follow a process that involves 3 P's: preparation, practice, and presence. And so we're going to tackle preparation, or at least the first part of it. Preparation basically consists of like the nuts and bolts, which is what we're going to talk about today. So that's sort of topic and venue and time and all this kind of stuff. And then the structure, we're going to talk a lot about presentation structure in the next video. And then sort of the content. We'll talk about how to put the right content in the right place at the right time. And basically the point of preparation is to get to a point where you have something to practice. And then we're going to start practicing. And it's an iterative process. And then we'll talk about presence and bring in some meditative techniques, visualization exercises to deal with fear and also to sort of understand how you can dial up and down your energy and sort of play with the audience a little bit. But today, we're going to do the nuts and bolts of preparation. So the first thing that happens is you get a phone call or an email that says, most likely it's from your boss or a client, or someone says, we need someone to speak at this conference or at some event or whatever. And for me, and if you remember, I'm going to use one of the speeches I had to do. And so I got a call from a group that I had known, and they were hosting a very large conference in China, in Guangzhou, which is in the south, on outsourcing. And so IT outsourcing in particular, but other types of outsourcing as well. And so I thought that would be really cool, and I'd done a lot of speaking, so I wasn't particularly nervous. But most people are really nervous and they're freaked out and like they don't want to do it. And so usually the first time or the second time or the third time is you have to do it. In this case, I didn't, but and I was really, really excited to do it. But when you get that call, don't hang up. Don't say yes and hang up, because the key is to get as much information as possible and then keep filling in that information. So you want to know as much about the audience as possible, and much about, are there sponsors of the event? What are the expectations? Talk about your own, with the conference producers, your own expertise, and try to sort of uncover a topic or several topics in that call. And then always schedule a follow-up call a few days later so that you can think about it and do some research, and then have another call and answer all the rest of your questions, like what does the room look like, or is it outdoors, is it indoors, is it big screens, is there thousands of people, is there 50 people, is there TV, because nowadays is it going to be webcast, who has the rights to the recordings, so there are all these things that now you got to think about, because the content lasts forever, because everything's published on the internet. So you want to learn as much as you possibly can in the first call, and then say yes. Always say yes. You'll figure out later, because it's the adventure of saying yes, and that's how it starts. And then in my case, I had never been to China. So first thing I had to figure out was like, where is Guangzhou and what's that all about? And so I started doing research on that and on China and the Chinese outsourcing industry, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to talk about yet. But it was clear that particularly in the IT business, I talked to a lot of CEOs in the US, and there was a lot of concern because of intellectual property theft about doing programming work in China. So we do most of our programming outsourced either in India or the Ukraine or Eastern Europe, other places. But China had not been at that time a very large place for us to do IT outsourcing. And so I thought that was sort of a challenging topic, because I sort of have to tell these people in China that they're stealing intellectual property, and wasn't sure how I was going to do that. But I did speak to some of my friends over there, and they said, it's pretty well known, and as long as you don't like hammer it, you could get away with it. And so I decided to really focus my presentation on the perception of since I deal with a lot of CEOs in my business as a banker, investment banker. What is the perception of China? How many people have gone there? Which I found out not that many. Even though they do a lot of business there, a lot of people had not actually been there, or certainly had not traveled around, so didn't have a good sense of the country. And they all had this view of this intellectual property problem, but that wasn't as much the main thing as is just the systems and the processes and understanding how to get around all that stuff. And so I was able to collect all this information and then have a follow-up call with them and start asking more questions about, okay, how long do I need to present, and what's the venue look like, and who else is going to be there? Is there going to be television there? Is there going to be webcast? What's the whole deal? So I was able to pull all that information together, and then I went back and started thinking about this topic and honing the topic down. So remember that, very simply, once you're only going to have 3 points to make, right? So you want to pick like 10 points and then narrow them down to 3 that you hammer home and you tell stories about, because that's what people remember. And so the key is understanding your audience and all the other people that are relevant. So the guy who puts on the conference, the sponsors, your boss, because you want to look good in front of your boss and your workmates, and so you sort of take all this stuff into effect, and you look at your own expertise, and then you try to map your expertise to the expectations in the audience to create something, and also something that you think you could have fun with, that you could be energized about, and that you feel comfortable. And you don't have to be the expert in the world. It's just all you're doing is delivering 2 or 3 really cool points. That's it. And a lot of it's just gathering data or just doing interviews with people, and bringing that kind of information to the forefront for people to then make their own decisions about how they want to run their businesses. So that's the nuts and bolts of it. The nuts and bolts is collecting information, picking a topic that, really understanding the audience the best you can, talking to sponsors, talking to other constituents, understanding the event space, the technology that's going to be there, what your travel plans, where you're going to, all that stuff. You want to make sure all that stuff is covered. So then you have to not worry about any of that. You can really, really focus on the content and the structure of the presentation. So that's all I got for today. Next one's going to be on structure, and I actually do almost every presentation the same, little tweaks here and there, but basically everything's the same. And so this is still within preparation. So remember, it's preparation, practice, and presence. And so we just did nuts and bolts today. We're going to do the structure, and then we're going to talk about the content, and the content that we use to fill out that structure. So again, thank you so much for taking some time, and don't be afraid, just say yes, and then watch my videos and we'll work it out together. And certainly if you have questions, shoot me questions, and like it, share it, and follow the channel. There's lots of really cool meditation stuff on being present, letting go of attachments, and so many other things, guided meditation. So enjoy the other content on the channel, and I'll speak to you very soon. Thank you.